Thank you, may be seated.
Yes, on your left-hand side is a lot of space, so you can move up. Let's fill up all those gaps. Just move forward. I'm still seeing some movement at the back there. I do want to give you enough time to get settled, but we don't have the whole day. Yes, no, it looks like there is order in the House. Deputy Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Honorable Richard Mkumbu, Representative of Mayor of the City of Cape Town, Mr. James Jones Stian, Chief of the South African National Defence Force, General Rosan Mopwanya, Chief of Staff of the South African National Defence Force, Lieutenant General Mike Ramatswana, Chief of Logistics, Vice Admiral DM Konto, the host of the Military Heritage Symposium, Chiefs of Services and Divisions, members of the Plenary Defence Staff Council, PDSC, members of the Military Command Council, MCC, members of the Logistics Division Staff Council, Chaplain M. Muchekwane, senior officers, Warrant Officer of the Defence Force, Master Chief Warrant Officer Enim Chateni, Inspector General DOD Warrant Officer Senior, Chief Warrant Officer R.R. Mashau, Chief Warrant Officer of the Law Division, Chief Warrant Officer TTF Landisa, Warrant Officers, Acting Dean of the Faculty of Military Science, Dr. Funky Munamba, CEO of the Castle of Good Hope, Mr. Calvin Gilfillan, members of the Diplomatic Corps, representatives from the South African Heritage Resources Agency, members of the media, members of the academic community, the wonderful members of the integrated project team of the Military Heritage Symposium, members of the civil society, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, good morning. Allow me, before we start with everything, to ask the chaplain to step forward and give us a prayer. Thank you.
Good morning. Please allow me this morning as we open this event to read for you from Exodus chapter 13, and I will read verse 8, 9, and 10 that reads, "And when the festival begins, sons and your daughters, that all you have now is because of what the Lord has done for you. This observance will be a reminder, like something tied to your hands and written on your palms or on your forehead. It will remind you to continue to recite all that is good and all that is worth remembering in the Lord, because the Lord brought you out of Egypt. Celebrate this festival as part of an appointed time every year. The Israelites is about to leave, and they are told by Moses that remember what you went through, remember where you come from, remember the relics that you have with you and the ones that you leave behind. Remember lest you pass here again. Remember the good, the bad, or the indifferent. Remember everything, that you learn lessons from it, that you preserve it, that you carry it with you on the palms of your hands, written on your head, so that everybody must know. Those who were here to see it happen, those who come after you to remember that it happened, and those who are not here again to remember, it must not happen again if it's bad, or we must celebrate it if it's good. Remember where we come from. Remember what it took for us to get here, and above all, remember to teach your children so that they can remember from whence they come. Let us pray. Gracious God, Heavenly Father, thank you that you have brought us thus far, for every lesson that we learn and everything that we hold here, for where you have brought us from, for where we are now. Let us remember to teach those who come after us, Heavenly Father, to value, to honor, to respect, and to teach those who come after them. We thank you for the opportunity, Heavenly Father, to remember our heritage, to remember our relics, to remember our traditions, and to preserve it for all those who want to learn from it, now and forevermore. Amen.
Thank you so much, Chaplain. Now that we have secured top cover, that the big boss upstairs is going to look after us, the mere fact that you are here bears testimony that the big man upstairs has secured you, has protected you, and you are here safely. Before we go into the nitty-gritty of the program, allow me to ask the CEO or representative from the council to go through safety and emergency drills, and then we'll get into the thick of things.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and welcome again. The Chair has introduced me. I'm Calvin Gilfillan, for the past decade the CEO of the Castle Control Board that manages the space. So once you start, once you start to dream about the place, you know you belong here. So quickly, we call it Castle rules. The bathrooms is of course of paramount importance. So there's one to your left, to my right, in the corner here. Then there's one to my left also, but upstairs. Then there's one to my left and your right, right at the end of that front court here. And then there's another one to the right in the archway there. So there's sufficient toilets for us, bathrooms for us in this space. But most importantly, you've seen the safety rules, safety and security. This is a 359-year-old building. So we need to know where to go if the going gets tough. So there's an ambulance there for people who have medical, if there's simply a medical emergency. But behind that ambulance, in the direction of the ambulance, is the main entrance and exit. So it's, if anything happens, if in the unlikely event, then the first point of exit is that point, and we will convene at the red paving as we move outside of the castle. But more importantly, if it's a 2000 event, there are 3 archways on this side that leads you into the back courtyard, that leads you through another 2 exits in the case of emergency. That brings you into the Sallysport parking area, and at the back of that is an open piece of land where we will assemble. Then other house rules, no smoking inside of the castle. It's a national heritage site. So if you want to smoke, the exits that I've just mentioned now, you can just step outside and I don't want to encourage that, but you may smoke if you go outside. Then, in terms of safety and security, thanks to Chief Lock, we have now 360 cameras all over the place. Chief can even, when he's in Pretoria in his office, on his cell phone, can check the security situation here. I do, however, want to warn people, the city around the Grand Parade, the taxi rank, the station is an area of petty crime, youngsters roaming around there. So if you walk into the city, just be on the lookout for that. Other than that, it's a perfect day. We have enough ushers, we have enough guards around to show you around in case of emergency. But the chief in case of emergency is me. So if you see me in this grey suit and there's any problem that you have, please come to me, I will be around. The chief also knows that I'm in 2 meetings as I'm speaking. We present our annual report to the portfolio committee. I will run quickly off to do that, but then I'll come back accordingly. So again, welcome. I see, Minister, I don't know if you should be also in the portfolio committee, but I'm sure the chief will deploy me and I will step down here. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I know I covered everything.
Yeah, what we will do just before the break, we will randomly select people to answer a few questions, nothing major. Questions like, how many bathrooms were mentioned? Which side is a smoking area? Those questions, we will ask those, then we know if you've covered everything. Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much, thank you so much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, indeed, welcome to this very important military heritage symposium. Thanks to Chief Lock for all the initiative to make this happen. This is where the past intersects with the future. Now, it doesn't just happen. Somebody has to make it happen. And CLOC and all the speakers and yourselves are making that happen. And we are here to celebrate. We are here to chart the way forward. So sit back, relax, but stay engaged. The mother city has a lot to offer. I know you just heard about petty crime, but there's a lot to see. There's a big mountain up there, there's water all over, and all the other amenities. But allow me to quickly take you through the outline of the program, just to give you a sense of what we're going to be looking at, what we're going to be doing. I'm not going to go into details, but just to give you a broad outline. Now, the program is structured according to sessions. Each session has a few speakers. Some of the sessions have got panel discussions, meaning you will get a chance to ask all those burning questions you've always been wondering. What happens? How can? Who? And all of those things, all right? So there will be questions there, but the questions will be focusing on the presentations by the speakers. All the sessions are moderated by at least 2 moderators. At some point, there will be a guided tour, which I think it will show on your program towards the end of the day. That guided tour is actually customers just for this session. There are certain corners that the public doesn't see or hardly ever sees, but because you're special, there is a specially curated tour for you, and they are well-trained guys to guide you through that. We will then have an opening address by Chief Logistics, so we can feel really welcome here. The Chief of the South African National Defence Force will give us a perspective on military heritage from the SNDF perspective. We'll then receive a keynote address from the Deputy Minister, then we'll have a break, whereafter the rest of the sessions will continue. Now, the key thing here is that we have an important item tonight. An important item, dinner. We don't want you to miss it, but we also want to make sure that we prepare the environment that is suitable for that. So the tour that was originally planned for lunchtime will move towards the end, which means instead of a longer lunch, we will have a slightly shorter lunch because the amount of time that we'll have used for the tour is going to move to the right. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so that is the biggest thing. But other than that, allow me to introduce to you the Chief of Logistics, Vice Admiral David M. Konto, who's going to be providing the opening address. Admiral.
Permission to proceed? Thank you, sir. Understand yesterday it was a bit chilly. I was advised that I must dress up warm. But I see now the weather is very good. Thank you, Mfundisi, for praying for us. What I picked up said that the protocol does a lot of damage and it does a lot of good. I would just like to apologize in advance in case I miss a member that was supposed to be recognized accordingly. But I'll try to cover up as much as possible. The Deputy Minister for Defense and Military Veterans, the Honorable Mr. Richard Nkungo, sir, the representative of the Mayor of Cape Town's office and the Castle Control Board member, Mr. James Stein, members of the Diplomatic Corps and Defense Advisors, Chief of the South African National Defence Force, General Mapanyo, Chief of Staff of South African National Defence Force, Lieutenant General Ramatswana, Chief of the South African Navy Vice Admiral Mondelo Bese, and Chief of Human Resources of the South African National Defence Force. He prefers to be called Chief of HR, Department of Defence, not South African National Defence Force. Maybe we can qualify this one at some time. Lieutenant General Sachungai. The military ombuds, Lieutenant General retired Masondo, Chaplain General Father Mutswe, Major Generals and Admirals retired. Of note, understand why we've got among us Major General Rothman and Rear Admiral Higgs in particular. Understand we've got other retired Major Generals as well. Those that are on mission, my apologies in advance. It's just that Rear Admiral Higgs has got a special place in my heart. He was once my flag officer fleet in Samostown. Master Chief Warrant Officer of the Defence Force, Warrant Officer Mchacheni, the leadership of all services and divisions, senior officers in defense, senior officers in government, Acting Dean of Faculty of Military Science, University of Stellenbosch, Professor Monama, the CEO of the Castle Control Board, Mr. Kevin, the Canon Association, Mr. Martin Venter, South African Military Veterans Association, the Civil Societies Organization, the Chairperson of the Gunners Association, the Mkonto Wesizwe Military Veterans Association. If Andile Aplain is here, you are welcome. All other military veteran formations in South Africa, we've got a few of those that I can take another 10 pages to mention. but I welcome them all. You are welcome. The chairperson and the members of the Symposium organizing team, Dr. Moses Kanyile, members of the media, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome. So I trust that I've gone so far that I mentioned, but those ones that I have not mentioned, I'll make sure that I go around and greet. Members, allow me to start with a popular saying that a nation that forgets the footprint of its soldiers risks losing the path to its own future. Our military heritage stands as a living bridge between the past and the generation yet to come. It embodies the courage, sacrifice, discipline, and ingenuity that have shaped our nation's destiny. Today, as we are gathered here in this castle, whose stones still echo with centuries of service, we affirm that our heritage must be valued, preserved, and celebrated, not merely as a relic of war, but as an enduring lesson of resilience, unity, and national pride. The Military Heritage Symposium is convened to inform and guide the Department of Defense policies, direction on military heritage and its strategic alignment with South Africa's national and international development commitments, particularly the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. This symposium seeks to position military heritage as a vital instrument for nation building, peace, education, and socio-economic advancement. It underscores the role of heritage in strengthening national identity, fostering unity, and promoting inclusive growth through cultural preservation and innovation. Furthermore, the engagement aims to forge partnership among the Department of Defense, academic institutions, heritage bodies, and civil societies, and to ensure that military heritage initiatives contribute directly to the Sustainable Development Goals. From the earliest wars of Umfetane, regiments of King Shaka Zulu and Mushweshwe, to the wars of resistance, through the Anglo-Boer War conflicts, world wars, and liberation struggle, our military heritage continues into the peace missions of the modern South African National Defence Force. Every era, every soldier, every battle contributes to the collective heritage that defines who we are. Military heritage stands as a remembrance, but moreover as a strategic instrument, shaping identity, projecting soft power, and fortifying the very same foundation of our defense establishment. In other words, military heritage as we know it, it hinges on these elements. It is therefore timely that more intellectual and financial resources are devoted to this pertinent topic. Yet within South Africa, there is a persistent socio-psychological distance from the military heritage, especially among Black South Africans. The legacy of forced conscription, oppression, marginalization under apartheid has shaped an ambivalence towards military history. Many communities still associate it with conquest and repression rather than indigenous resistance and heroism. This symposium confronts that discomfort head-on. It seeks to reframe the national military memory to include the Battle of Isandlwana, for an example, the heroism of Blood River, the sacrifice of the SS Mendi, the discipline of Shaka Zulu's regiment, the vision of Mushweshwe, all of as elements of single continuum of South African excellence. The intention is not to erase painful history, but to reclaim and reinterpret it through African eyes. Our military heritage embodies shared memories and shared security, creating a pathway for peaceful cooperation among nations. This is evident in the legacy of Moses Kotane, whose grave is still in Moscow, stands as a symbol of enduring solidarity and in resting places in the southern Sahara or southern Africa. Just to mention a few, I trust that I won't be leaving out some of these member states, 16 of them in southern Africa, that our graves are still lying in all of these countries. The first one I mentioned is Uganda, Tanzania, Angola, Mozambique, Botswana, Lesotho, Eswatini, Zimbabwe, Zambia. We still have all those graves there, and others. These sites are not only reminders of sacrifice, but also testaments to the lasting diplomatic bonds between South Africa and those nations. Across the globe, countries have increasingly recognized military heritage as an instrument of soft power. Through museums, military memorials, and commemorations, nations communicate values of bravery, innovation, unity, and service, reinforcing diplomatic relations and enhancing international respect. Nations such as United Kingdom, the United States, Russia, India, Egypt, China, and Cuba, just to mention a few, use their heritage instruments to project military prestige, attract defense partnership, and stimulate cultural and heritage tourism. South Africa too should embrace this path by positioning its military heritage as both moral compass that guides our identity and strategic tool of influence on the world stage. Our stories of resilience, struggle, and triumph are not only national treasure, they are diplomatic assets capable of building bridges, strengthening alliances, and fostering mutual understanding among nations. If members can allow me, I missed out to acknowledge one person that is sitting to my far right, Vice Admiral Kugu. Sir, you are welcome. Here at the Castle of Good Hope, once a fortress of colonial power, we gather as custodian of a new vision. A vision that reclaims our story from external narrators and restores African military genius to their rightful place in the world history. Our ancestors did not record their victories in ink, but in memories, songs, and tradition. Their libraries were their people, their archives, their stories. The time has come to translate that living memory into our national doctrine, our museum, our education systems. Today we declare a new custodianship, one led by the Department of Defense and the South African National Defense Force, ensuring that our stories is told through African eyes, in African voices, and for all South Africans. This symposium is not the end of remembrance, but the beginning of a living, inclusive national tradition, one that will grow stronger with every generation. As we open the symposium, let us honor the memories of all who served. From the Battle of Isandlwana to Al-Alamein, from Sekhukhuniland to Bangui, and recently the Battle of Sake and Goma. May their courage continue to light our path. May their spirit live in every soldier. who wears the uniform of this proud South African National Defence Force. And may this gathering at the Castle of Good Hope stand as a testament to our unity, our diversity, and our shared destination. For our story will never fade because it is owned, narrated, and celebrated by its rightful custodian. Members, you are welcome, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Admiral. Well, I mean, I'm closer to him, but I couldn't hear you clapping. Let's give a thunderous round of applause. Thank you, Admiral. I know it's still early. The Vavavoom is going to get there as we proceed. But, you know, let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. As the Admiral was conceptualizing this exercise, this symposium, I must tell you, I've never had to deal with so many military historians in my life. And I always say I'm the luckiest person on the planet. But the symposium, the preparations to this has revealed so many things. Now I remember that actually we're coming from a troubled past, a terrible past, a past that we cannot ignore, a past that we have to recognize and deal with. In fact, the Admiral, said if I'm revealing something, I shouldn't reveal apologies, and I think I've got protection from. The Admiral says this has a potential to touch a wrong nerve, a terrible nerve, but it is inevitable. We leave it on its own, nobody's going to deal with it. We have to deal with the issue of military heritage head on right now, moving forward. So what I'm trying to get to is that the decision, the process, the conceptualization of this symposium was not just a smooth sailing exercise. There was a lot that went into it, and we really appreciate Admiral. We really hope that this inaugural symposium will just move from strength to strength. Now, having said that, allow me to introduce to you the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, who is going to be talking about the SANDF perspective on military heritage. Chief SANDF, General Maponya.
Please be seated. I didn't realize that there are steps on the other side, so I did what is expected of me, to take a direct approach. The Chief of Logistics amply said the protocol is a dangerous terrain. I know where people with a history, and maybe I should just say program director, all those that had been mentioned by Silo. I've heard that he said there are major generals and admirals, and he mentioned Admiral Hicks as well as General Radman. But closer to General Radman, when I tried to look around, I saw General Smith as well. I think it is dangerous to go that route because at one stage at the Army College, General Kingon once introduced and amply saw General Raman, and he indicated to him, he said, I would
like to welcome General Renamo. And you know, knowing the late General Raman, may his soul rest in peace, he didn't take it very lightly. And when he was on stage, he then hit back and he said, I want to take this opportunity to say to Colonel King Kong. So today, as we are gathered here, I really feel honored. There is only one danger in the defense, that we have the same writer of speeches, and thus the script takes almost the same storyline. Now, for me to avoid boring you, because at first I thought C-Log inadvertently received a speech that was designed for me. But I couldn't blame him, because the scribes are the same, with the same people that write these speeches, and so they might have misplaced it, give it to C-Log. So what I'm going to say might have been for C-Log. So don't get worried by the content, because what I intended doing was to try and put a perspective from the point of view of the South African National Defence Force as to the matter of military heritage. I started off by saying that we are a people with a history, and as said by the Admiral, we need to understand once again that our military heritage, as the content before you rightly assert the Sea Navy, and because I say Sea Navy because when we are in Cape Town, all that he had been praising to say the chaplain did. We had a parade last week where the chief of the Air Force couldn't handle the winds. But when we went to the Navy, the winds were calm. So we find that he who has control in this part of the world is Chief of the Navy. So thank you once again, Chief of the Navy, for taking care of the weather. Our military heritage if one has to put it in perspective, must also be understood that it's a matter of great national and international significance. Nation states like South Africa participate in conflict situations through its citizens and using assets acquired through the taxpayers' money. The aftermath of such conflicts leaves various items, practices, and phenomena of historical importance that we broadly mention and call military heritage. So as we live the military culture today, we do so having inherited a lot from the past. Therefore, military heritage assets are indeed national assets. At international level, military tourism is a niche market within the broader tourism space. People who are interested in military heritage have a particular interest in old battlefields, fortifications, military items kept in military museums, and other structures of military significance. These require management and coordination in such a way that there is a seamless interface between military heritage assets that are under the control of the South African National Defence Force and those that are in private hands. It is through initiatives such as the Military Heritage Symposium that coordination can take place, premised on the understanding that these assets belong to the nation. This is why I would like to commend Chief Locke, this time Sinevi. I will leave you out except in that you happen to have named some of our vessels using the names of heroes and heroines that form part of the entire heritage. But I would like to commend Chief Locke, Vice Admiral Mkontro, for organizing and hosting this symposium. It enables us as South Africans to look at the military heritage as an instrument for continuing the legacy of reconciliation and national cohesion. While we cannot deny that South Africans from all races have fought wars of resistance, both among themselves and against foreign aggression, a symposium like this contributes towards the nation building, reconciliation and consolidation of democracy. As we have penned out that ours require that we come together in our journey to greatness, we therefore cannot forget to pave our way, carve our route towards the future by looking at what had been left behind by those who came before us. We are guided on heritage matters by the Constitution, the Defence Act and the National Heritage Resource Act of 1999. The National Constitution enjoins the National Defence Force to always perform its functions in the national interest. The Defence Act requires us to safeguard our assets, both tangible and intangible. However, the National Heritage Resources Act is even more explicit about the role of the National Defence Force on heritage matters. It highlights military-related archaeological structures, public monuments, and memorials that were built by public money, even if they are located on private land. It stipulates how local authorities, especially, should strive to preserve military objects. It therefore goes without saying that the preservation, coordination, and promotion of military heritage in South Africa is a collective responsibility, but our National Defence Force has a critical role to play. Despite the limited resources at our disposal, the South African National Defence Force still commands a significant portfolio of military heritage assets, but the largest portion is in private hands. Given our common interest in bequeathing our posterity with heritage items in good condition, it is incumbent on all sectors of society to work in collaboration and inclusive manner. For maximum impact, both public and private sector must join forces in the preservation and promotion of military heritage for the benefit of the country. I've been informed that there is an apparent fragmentation in the military heritage value chain. Information on key military heritage installations, battlefields, fortifications, and similar structures is not entirely visible for the benefit of all in heritage space. While military museums are open to the public, they are not integrated seamlessly into the tourism initiatives at local, provincial, or national levels. This implies that such military museums cannot generate revenue for a self-sustainment military tourism is reputed to be non-seasonal, which means military heritage enthusiasts are prepared to visit military heritage sites at any time of the year. Another challenge is that military veterans, especially in the post-1994 era, find it difficult to participate in military heritage business due to a host of factors, including lack of information, poor coordination, and exclusionary business practices. We need to double our efforts to create awareness, identify potential opportunities, and proactively engage private sector role players. It is in this context that I have instructed all chiefs of services and divisions to revisit their strategies on military heritage management and their interface with public and private sector structures. In this regard, I would like to see closer collaboration between the South African National Defence Force and relevant structures such as the South African Heritage Resources Agency and the National Heritage Council. Training on heritage matters is an absolute imperative so we can inculcate a sense of appreciation for our defense heritage resources. While the socio-economic benefits of military heritage in support of tourism, education, national reconciliation, we would continually guard against potential pitfalls which may set us back. By their very nature of being historical, heritage items may evoke emotions about nostalgia or negative sentiments that may be counterproductive. Similarly, there may be temptation to create barriers which prevent new entrants into the heritage business. The presentation of historical facts in a distorted or abusive manner may detract us from unifying our nation around inclusive military heritage business participation. These and other challenges require maturity, careful consideration, and deliberate initiative to address them. We, as the South African National Defence Force, stand ready to collaborate with all forward-looking stakeholders for the benefit of our country and our people. I'm particularly impressed with the composition of the audience in this symposium, as it comprises key stakeholders, including academia, entrepreneurs in the heritage sector, and of course, our military personnel. It is my firm belief that this symposium will come up with concrete proposals that will assist in the harmonization of military heritage practices, investment, regulation, and regular engagement. I'm looking forward to a final product and outcome that will benefit all in what we put together in this symposium. I wish you all fruitful deliberations over the next 2 days, and therefore, as the people with a history, let that history be lived for us to carve a better tomorrow. I thank you.
Thank you, Chief of the South African Defence Force. Indeed, the issue of emotions is very important, ladies and gentlemen. The nerve issue that I touched on from CLOG and the issue of emotions as raised by SNDF is of primary importance. Military heritage has to be managed with absolute care, with maturity, with sensitivity. I had see Sandaf talking about nation building, talking about reconciliation. That can only happen if we rise above the past, we rise above emotive sensitivities. Thank you, Chief Sandaf. It now gives me great pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome on stage the Deputy Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Honorable Richard Mkungu. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Program Director. The Chief of the South African Defence Force, General Ruzani Mapwanye, Vice Admiral David Mkondo, our host this morning, Chief Navy and Chief HR, representatives from the Faculty of Military Science and the Center for Military Studies, Military Ombudsman, Bob. He's the only one who's sitting with me, hosting me there. Distinguished policymakers, military practitioners, historians and heritage custodians, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, my humble apology for, on behalf of my minister overseas with the President. It is a great honor and privilege for me to share some perspectives with you on matters of military heritage in our country. The timing of this symposium is profound, as you would recall that around this time, in 1972, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, was busy with the final touches on a strategic document that was adopted in November 1972 as the Convention concerning the protection of world cultural and natural heritage. That convention, to which South Africa is a signatory, requires nations to identify, protect, conserve, present and transmit to future generations heritage assets and different kinds, including military heritage. A symposium of this nature is therefore fulfilling the obligations that the current generations has in relation to future generations. The provision of this convention are domesticated in our country through the National Heritage Resources Act of 1999. It requires us to, inter alia, preserve and promote our heritage. In this regard, the Act creates national structures such as the South African Heritage Resources Agency to operationalize government vision on heritage matters. The military is a microcosm of the society from which our soldiers are sourced. Our society has scars of the memories emanating from the battles that their loved ones were involved in. For them, the military represents a unifying force which defied all odds to come together as a professional, non-racial, and non-political national defense force. The military remains one of those institutions which contributes towards nation building and national reconciliation in many practical ways, such as this symposium. Some people may be wondering why we are focusing on military heritage when the National Defense Force is faced with so many challenges. It is my argument that such a question would be misplaced. Instead, we should ask, what would happen if we did not pay attention to military heritage? That is the question that is worth asking, especially at this time when the whole world is revisiting its traditional approaches to relations with other nations. How trade should be conducted and also trying to redefine their state of nationhood. Indeed, a lot could happen. If we do not pay attention on military heritage, but let me highlight a few negative consequences of such neglect. Last, but I only made a mistake and said goodbye. Firstly, the fundamentals of any defense force are rooted in long-standing traditions which have evolved over time. And in most cases, they are inherent in being a soldier, regardless of geographic location. Fortifications, military museums, key military installations, and many military collective items remain of universal interest to any soldier, irrespective of national uniform or rank. Secondly, if we do not take care of our military heritage, we will not only be in breach of the convention that we willingly signed, but we can run the risk of total obliteration of our military past in a manner that cannot be reversed. Some of the military heritage assets may have been vandalized, stolen, or deteriorated in such a way that they can hardly be associated with the military at all. Thirdly, neglecting military heritage deprives our country of a sustainable source of revenue. Other countries have capitalized on their war-related historical assets, items, and practices as part of their tourism strategy. This includes visiting all battlefields, installations, and war memorials. Currently, the global war tourism market is estimated at $530 million US and expected to rise to $927 million US. War tourism is a niche tourism market, which means that these values are based on war tourists who are only interested in military heritage sites. But we know that when military tourists visit a country, they tend to be interested in our tourist attractions, thus impacting positively on our economy in terms of job creation and sustainability of our hospitality sector. Our National Development Plan, NDP, recognizes the potential impact of tourism in our economy. It states that in addition to being a top conference and sporting event destination, it is also home to 9 World Heritage Sites. Now I can move towards my last stage. Last but not least, the educational value of military heritage assets is huge. Our children and broader society should be able to witness and appreciate where we come from, and to inculcate a sense that seeks to prevent the repetition of bad things that happened in the past. I'm aware of the good work that the castle is doing in bringing children to this venue, to educate them about the role of the castle as a military heritage site. It is therefore self-evident that we cannot afford to neglect military heritage because the consequences are dire, let alone the opportunity cost of socio-economic development for our nation. I have had a look at the topics and lineup of speakers and exhibitors and the profile of the audience that is assembled here. I could not help but conclude that the military heritage in South Africa is going to be analyzed and discussed by both academics and practitioners, where real-life scenarios and tangible solutions will be considered. It demonstrates that military heritage thrives where there is strong partnership between the military and civil society. Our Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Honorable Angie Mchika, will be watching with keen interest the development of a credible strategy, plan and concrete initiative on military heritage in the Department of Defense. A dedicated corporate structure and budget for this deliverable should feature prominently in departmental documents such as the annual corporate plan and the annual report. The spin-offs from military heritage business should impact positively on our military veterans and their families. Government has progressive legislative and policies in place on the overall governance of our heritage assets, but there has been an apparent missing link in the form of military heritage. We are cognizant that some of our state-owned enterprises such as Armscor and Denel and many other privately owned military enterprises play a crucial role. If they don't, they have to. In the military heritage value chain, we have to partner with them in order to improve our value proposition to our prospective military heritage tourists. As I conclude, allow me to thank Chief Logistics, Vice Admiral Mkondo, under the leadership of General Mapanya, Chief of SNDF, for organizing this inaugural symposium. Indeed, it places military heritage in the DoD on a growth trajectory that is aligned with the provisions of our Constitution and legislative framework. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Minister. Indeed, there are benefits to military heritage, both for the department and for our future generations. The questions are self-evident. How can we benefit from it? But the Deputy Minister is saying, let's not ask all these other questions. Maybe let's be a bit counterintuitive in the way we frame this, where we're saying, if we do not focus on this, what could happen? And he says, the consequences are dire. The consequences are such that they may just not be reversible. Some of these assets might be vandalized or stolen, and some of them might have disappeared. And therefore, it is important that we do something about this. Now, personally, Deputy Minister, I believe in the near future, the luxury of having things that we can touch about our military history might just become a distant past, something that we all read about and say, there used to be something like this. I give you one good example, and this example I think I'm going to use today. I might just use over the next 2 days. I came here to visit this place, and I was told there's a place where there's what is called, what is that thing for? No, there's a special name. Somebody said guillotine. I can see the shock in the faces. It is here. If you misbehave, we might want to show you where it is, not how it works. No? We'll show you where it is. Now, we might take these things lightly, but they are significant. Because if we read about things without being able to point out this is what it looks like and so on, we might be losing something. But we also, I think that's what the DM was saying, we need to be careful how we go about running the business of military heritage. As much as I appreciated how I was taught or shown the guillotine, the situation could have been different if they said all the naughty people, all the naughty slaves were put in here and guillotined. Because there would be no sensitivity in terms of the historical gravity of the matter. So we have to manage heritage matters in a manner that says we want to build, not to go back to the old past and the terrible past, but to just say, from my educational perspective, this is what used to happen. So, thank you so much, Deputy Minister. I think that was very powerful. It now gives me a great pleasure to introduce to you our next and last speaker for this session, who will be talking about setting the scene, sustainable military heritage in South Africa. Where to from here? This will be done by Dr. Hendrik Snyders from the Faculty of Military Science. Dr. Snyders.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All protocols observe. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the military leadership, our stakeholders, I think for most of us, Chief Log's protocol list is a very loaded one. And for people like myself coming from the civilian sector, we sometimes listen to this very long, cumbersome list and think, is this bloody thing really necessary? But ladies and gentlemen, what Chief Log actually did was to offer to us a glimpse into the essentials of our heritage. Because that protocol list is one of those embedded practices that forms the heart of military heritage. So every time the Chief Log need to welcome the Chief of the South African National Defence Force in a particular manner, it means that he is reinforcing an ages-old military tradition, and that in itself linked the Chief of the National Defence Force to all other defence forces elsewhere in this planet. And what Chief Log is doing is executing exactly the long embedded practices that are so peculiar to the military. And can I take you on a journey a little more, ladies and gentlemen? I live in the Saldanha Bay environment. So if you travel through a little place called St. Helena Bay, there is no sign that will indicate to you that somewhere in the 1480s, the Khoi in Saldanha Bay or in St. Helena Bay executed the first act of military resistance to colonial rule. But because of the multi-layered nature of our heritage, on that same site, there is a commemorative stone that commemorate the arrival of the Portuguese on the St. Helena coast during the 15th century. As you travel on the West Coast Road towards Cape Town, there is no indicator informing the general public that as you pass the turn off to Mamre, that the missionary town of Mamre was indeed the first training camp of Umkhonto we Sizwe in the 1960s. But as you approach Blauberg, there are no visible, comprehensive indicator that not so long ago that the Battle of Blauberg took place around Rietvlei, Blauberg Hills, and Melkbosstraat. There's absolutely nothing. If you enter the city proper, there is no indicator that in 1510, de Almeida lost his life in a second round of resistance to early colonization before the arrival of Jan van Riebeeck. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I can recount to you a variety of insurrections, insurgencies, small wars, and big wars. How many of you have parked on the Grand Parade without thinking at all about the significance of the public space that all of us place our cars in? Do we for one moment consider that that was indeed one of the first major parade grounds on the African continent from a Western perspective? And if you enter this particular place, you walk across cobblestones without asking the fundamental question: what was the contribution of military engineers in building this fortification, laying down the cobblestones, albeit with slave and other labor? But we assume and accept so many things as a given. So if I look at the Chief of the Defence Force and Chief Log, and I look at the beauty of their uniform, I'm asking myself, does members of the general public and our colleagues in uniform really understand the embedded power of that uniform, other than thinking about the authority that resides within the uniform of the Chief of Defence Force and all members of the military command? And those, ladies and gentlemen, are the embedded heritage in what we do, in what we display, and what we should preserve. When I see the queues around, it reminds us about the politics of textile, because what you see is not a queue, or as one of my colleagues naughtily would say, is daai nie 'n skirt nie. You know? Because males are not supposed to wear that. But because of the multi-layered nature of military heritage, the kilt is a very powerful symbol. And when you encounter the kilt within the South African context, it places you right in the middle of global history. So when there is a mutiny amongst the forces, and it doesn't matter whether it is located within liberation armies, within regular armies, etc., the use of the word mutiny to describe a particular form of collective action means that the Defence Force is a language community. In language we all use, but language physically you cannot really touch. It becomes part of the intangible heritage that we nurture. I remember from the old SANDF, and one of the veterans organizations published a little dictionary of all these funny words that are used within the military context. And one that particular stick to me is the notion of a jam stealer. Chief Log, you would probably recognize that, because it's my understanding that those in logistics is behind the back called the Society of Jam Stealers. Now, this is a language that only those in the military will understand, meaning that becomes part of our intangible heritage. Every time that we step up and we call on our bugler to give us the last post. I used to spend 7 years working for correctional services, where the last post is a fundamental part also of the last farewells. And when you heard the haunting notes of the last post, it ties all soldiers, all civilians, all military families together across the globe in a concrete way. But I ask you, other than the sheet music of the last post, you cannot touch the last post. It's part of our intangible heritage, to the same extent that the sunset ceremony would form part of our embedded practices and our embedded heritage. But my dear colleagues, heritage is not only about humans. Because history is often played out and written on the back of non-humans. So if I look at these wonderful vehicles outside and I think about the vehicles used by our forces in their latest battles, in our military exercises from Mistral to Bangui to wherever, that particular vehicle becomes a living entity because it carries the story of the occupants of that vehicle. Over the course of our history, we had able seamen, just nuisance, a Danish dog, awarded full military ranks, a military funeral, and military medical care during his lifetime. Baboon Jackie was a full military officer, able to respond to military commands, able to recognize the sound of martial music. And although Jackie the baboon and Nancy the springbok were mere mascots, they become witnesses to war and military action. In the rest of the world, in France and Belgium, for example, we have monuments honoring racing pigeons, because in the days before electronic signals, pigeons carry the intelligence. So those nations saw it fit to honor the pigeon. In the USA, those that participated, pardon me, in the border, in the desert wars, the dogs of the Marine Corps were awarded their own monuments. So it is, our military heritage, ladies and gentlemen, is far more than just concrete and stone. It is in the sound of our bugles, it is in the commands that we give, it is in the signals that we execute, but it is also in the uniforms that we wear. If there is a particular way of mourning in the military, it is part of our embedded heritage. So Admiral, General, and the military command, the task at hand is multi-layered and varied. And it's the task of all of us gathered here today to preserve not only what we can see and what we can touch, but also what we say and what we do. So if you recall with fondness your interaction with jam stealers, rest assured that there's a generational gap, and that certain heritage or certain logistic officials may take offense because they weren't part of that experience. So when we talks about the events at Sharpeville in 1960, and we look at the legacy of the commanders that emerged in the liberation struggle from Sharpeville, it forms part of the fact that our military heritage must include small wars, insurgencies, and big wars. How long will it take before we see the commemoration of the military action at Bulhoek in the first part of the 20th century? Because although Bulhoek was a small operation, and in the official language of the time, it was about a certain prophet, so said the mainstream narrative, and his followers that did not want to adhere to military or to the commands to move themselves. Please remember that the Union Defence Force sent the air wing in addition to the police. And Bulhoek is not regarded as a war. Even difficulty to classify it as an insurgency. But it was a moment in our history where the military played a role. So to capture it all, Director, the leadership, we are duty bound by our history to take this multi-layered melting pot and to weld it together. And history has assigned to you the responsibility to see that within this generation, this dream of forging out of this multi-layered strands of our military past, that we build not only an inclusive heritage, but that we also forge an awareness that there is a phenomenon called the absent presence. And it works like this. If we remove the balcony outside and replace it with nothing else, its absence will still speak about what was. So there is a tendency in our society, and Chief Locke indicated that the military is a microcosm of society. If there is a trend in society to burn things and to let things fall, the fact that things fall and the fact that things burn doesn't mean the absence brings silence. The absence continues to speak. So let us work towards a situation, colleagues, as a collaborative, that we walk hand in hand towards a situation where we differ about the rich emotive past that we have, but that we allow enough space to let the past speak about justice, about injustice, and about national unity and identity. I hope, colleagues, all of us, especially the practitioners, together with my colleagues in uniform, that we will make a genuine, honest attempt to forge a product that will do justice to this generation assembled here. Thank you.
Now, if this is not a personification of military history, what is? This is military history walking. The passion, the knowledge, the depth of knowledge is incomparable. These are the guys who make you get excited about seeing things that you don't see any value in until they tell you about it. He has indicated, just on the West Coast, a lot is happening about military history, but we're totally oblivious to it. So, say, look, you have started something huge, something big, and Dr. Snyders is pleading for the actual concretization of everything that comes out of this into real initiatives, something we can touch, feel, and smell. Thank you so much, Dr. Snedders. I think another thunderous round of applause. Now, we now know that every inch of South Africa's soil has had some battle activity of sorts. Blacks fighting blacks, blacks fighting whites, whites fighting whites. Now, nobody has not fought against anybody else. So it means, moving forward, we really have got no reason to move as a collective in terms of military heritage. Which is why we will be presenting one of these days a project on military biographies. Because if we miss the history that is here, especially amongst our leaders, we will never recover it. Some of them are fast evaporating, disappearing from the scene, and the memories are kind of disappearing. So we need to get started with the project of military biographies as soon as possible. Now, as we prepare to move out for coffee, I just want to alert you, there is an exhibition outside of all sorts of things. Please just walk past, have a chat, engage the exhibitors. They have made a great effort to bring the staff here just for your appreciation. And you can engage them and get contact details as we move forward. Where is the Sergeant Major? Is the Sergeant Major still around? The warrant officer, is he around here? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to request, is the Sergeant Major? Okay, so what's going to happen, we're going to allow our dignitaries to step out to go to their relevant holding rooms, and then the ushers will show us where we're going to have coffee. It is 10:15 now. I'm going to request that we are back here seated, not thinking about sitting, at 10:45. So we must be seated 10:45. Sergeant Major.
Please stand.